All right. The next delegation is Brad Liston.
Brad Liston.
Let me see, I'm gonna have to dig. Dig.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brad Liston, and I am a parent of 3 students in Kanawha County schools. And I'm here, well, what I'd like to do is just read you part of my daughter's homework, a couple sections of it. So I was the last one through the house, and I was always the last one through the house, and therefore I was expected to pay the loser's price, which was to kiss Hester. In order to bring this forced intercourse about, it had been necessary for Noah and Simon to tie her to the bed, prone to the bed, where she threatened to bite the lips off anyone that kissed her. They never marshaled as much enthusiasm for the many repeats of the game called Last One Through the House Has to Kiss Hester. Maybe they realized later that I began to intentionally lose the game. And what did they make of the time they untied us and Hester said to me, "Hey, I felt your heart-on." "You did not," I said. "I did. It wasn't much of a heart-on. It was no big deal, but I felt it."
Mr. Liston, really, I understand you want to make some point. There's some inappropriate things in the book, but I don't think we need to.
Wait a minute. You say this is your daughter's homework?
This was my daughter's assigned reading homework.
Well, wait a minute now, people. If it's his assigned reading homework, if they can read it, I can hear it.
Well,
I apologize because I don't...
What grade is your daughter?
My daughter's a junior in high school.
Okay.
And I apologize because some of this is offensive.
Right.
I don't
Was this assigned
well, I think
to
if
her?
we're going to be
What, Mr. Luoni, wait a minute.
No, I'm not.
If a student in the 11th grade has to read it, at my age, I can hear it.
Well, let me just point out that this meeting is going to be televised, and so therefore there will be
Prime time when
I think we need to remember who the audience is.
Children reading it.
I understand.
Well, I understand that you feel that it's inappropriate, and I don't think anybody was going to disagree with that.
But sir, they have disagreed. I went before the board for committee, and everyone agreed except for me that it was appropriate material for the children to read.
They agreed it was appropriate material.
Yes.
What committee?
What committee?
The board formed a committee to review the book.
We didn't form a committee.
Well, Mrs. Jarvis,
I'm
if I
sorry,
might have a
school
minute to
administration.
explain that this board has a policy that when there's questionable material or parent questions, the parent may submit a request, as Mr. Liston did. And then our supervisor of secondary English and language arts, according to policy, convenes a committee.
And who is is that Margaret Miller?
No, it's Judy Gillen.
Judy Gillen, okay. Judy Gillen gets a committee. Who's on the committee?
Well, if I could just finish. She goes from different areas and different regions of parents, teachers. I don't have an exact list of the committee with us, or with me this evening. Then each of those people in the committee are given the book to read and analyze the book and make their comments. And then come back, and this group met, and they even had a night where they came back and discussed the book. And Mr. Liston was very honest. Unanimously, the group in there decided that it should stay at the higher honors classes, that the book is not assigned. Children have in those grades can choose a book to read.
No, sir. No,
she was assigned
when my daughter was assigned this book, and I apologize for interrupting, but if I could, I apologize for reading this out loud. I don't use this type of language. I don't condone it. But this is what my kids were assigned to read. And that's the reason I want to share it with a lot of folks, but I know you don't have time to read the book, so I apologize.
Oh, I want, what is it?
However, let me just finish my statement. The fact that the committee met, including parents, and Dr. Williams can add too, because he worked with Mrs. Gillen very closely, agreed that the book should stay at the honors level classes for 11th and 12th graders. I think also, correct me, Dr. Williams, if I'm wrong, but that from this point on there would be a permission slip that would have to be signed by parents before a child would be allowed to read this book.
Well, you know something.
Also, I think your daughter was given an alternative assignment. Is that correct?
She was given an alternative, but this was the way it was put forth.
So what we did was follow the policy. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She was told that she had to go find a book on her own that was similar content, similar length, similar subject matter, that the teacher knew something about and could test her on, and then gave her no examples, no books to pick from. So we went out to the bookstores. My daughter researched with a librarian, public librarian, gave her the title of the book, and we had to go on our own to find a book to read.
What'd
So
you end up
to
with?
say she wasn't required to read it was like saying you don't have to work. You don't have to work, but it's a whole lot easier if you do. So there was that alternative, but I didn't consider that much alternative, and that's a whole other subject matter, how that was handled in the classroom.
How was it handled?
She had a very difficult time with it.
What's the name of this book?
This is a book called it's by John Irving. It's entitled A Prayer for Owen Meany.
A Prayer for Owen
Yes.
Meany.
And if
Well, I think that we will look into what your complaint and
because it gets much more graphic.
right, and I wanted to.
Well, maybe you could just buy a gift for all the children and get them highlighted.
Here's my
so they
point.
can
And there are parts in this book that if there were illustrations, we all would be arrested for distributing pornographic material to the children.
It's not an illustrated book, I think.
No, it's not illustrated.
Oh, I
So
hate
one of the
that.
most powerful aspects of literature, is its ability to paint images in your mind as you read. How many times have you read a book and gone to the movie and you're disappointed in the movie because it didn't come up to your expectations? This is the type of material that's being planted in my children and your grandchildren's minds as they read.
Okay, no, I think you made an appropriate
Well,
point.
what are we going to do, Mr.
Well,
Lewis?
we can review
Again,
his
this
comments
board, I
and his
believe-
additional comments, and the board can agree that with the parent that we shouldn't have the book
It's
in
not
the,
just-
in
Well,
the
Mr.
library.
Luoni, you'll be violating your own policy, and the policy was
Then we
that
need to change the
that we would
policy.
set up a committee of parents to review objectionable
Well-
material with a wide variety of people on that committee.
If I can add a comment
order
about
to-
the committee,
and I think-
excuse me, that there was one person that said there was no redeeming quality in the book, but still thought that children should be able to read it.
Well, I think
I'm a little skeptic of
Well, I
of
think
the
you
committee.
brought up a point that we need to look at our policy, and we need to
Yes, we
look
need
if
to
we
look at
need
our
to
policy.
define more clearly what's out of bounds for, and what areas are out of bounds, and for literature. And I think I'm not faulting anybody on the committee, but I think you have raised legitimate points that we need to review, and I think we will. As a board, when we have our next curriculum meeting, which is in May, we will look at what we should do, if anything, to better ensure that we don't, have a...
I've been pursuing this since January.
Since January.
Okay.
And
I
let me-
remember your letter.
And let me add that the letters I mailed to the board members and to Dr. During, I was very pleased with the response I got. I mailed them out on a Saturday.
Okay.
By 10 o'clock Monday morning, Dr. During had called me. The board
remember
members
that.
of the board had called me,
Okay.
and I appreciated that. But what really bothers me is what's maybe behind it, because my daughter wanted her own free will, wanted to sing a song for show choir at a concert. Jesus Loves Me. She couldn't do it because it was offensive. It maybe offended someone in the audience. But yet, she's required to read this type of material.
Well, something that amazes me, Mr. Priest just told about a book of intelligent design, of pandas and
Right.
people. We can't put that in the hand of teachers, but we can require this of children. I'm a little confused.
Can you
All
come
right.
back on May the 8th?
May the 11th, Mr. Thal.
Mine
But it was changed to May the 11th.
was changed.
May the 11th?
Yes.
May the 11th.
Well,
We'll put an agenda item on our curriculum meeting to review.
Can you come back on May the 11th?
Sir, I would appreciate the opportunity to come back, because
I'd like to have you at some extent, some
Yes.
length on it.
And this
All
will be
right.
on the agenda.
And
where
we'll
you can
discuss
really
it on
speak
May
to
the 11th.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
appreciate that. And again, I apologize but that was the
All right.
content of the book.
So
All right.
no apology needed.
I can't wait to check that out.
We put it out.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, the next speaker is Bray Liston.
Who now?
This is Bray.
Gray listed?
Right.
I've lost my sheet.
I don't have any of these sheets.
Wait a minute. I've lost one.
Unless that was,
Oh.
that's your name?
Are you
Okay.
Gray listed?
I'm Brayless.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, Superintendent, and board members. I'm here tonight as a supporting parent, a parent of 3. I'm Brad's dad.
Oh,
Oh. Oh, okay.
Raised 3 children of my own. I have 10 grandchildren, 8 of whom are or have recently been students in the Kanawha County schools, all of which have received academic recognition as well as character recognition in their classrooms. And I'm very proud of that and appreciative of it. But as their grandfather, I'm very distraught and disappointed at the kind of material that they have been exposed to and are expected to be exposed to in their classrooms. It distresses me no end to think and have to believe that those people in our school system, and more specifically those who choose the classroom materials without which our young people and children are taught, have to stoop so low to use this type of pornographic material that Brad was reading you just a bare touch of in their classrooms to teach literature to our young people and children. I'm pleased that Mr. Leone and the board thought this was too graphic and so forth to appear in this meeting and to, above all, to be heard on public television. And I hope everybody will take note of that, because the policy of the school board should be not to approve this kind of pornographic stuff, but to keep it out of the school system completely. And I thank you for your time.
All right,
can
thank
you come back on the 11th, too, with your son? Good. We'll be here.
All right.